Well, hello. My name is Brett Humphrey, aka the Vintage Traveler. I wanted to talk to you about this little Electron DigiTakt because it's new to me, and I'm in the process of really learning how to create a song with it. And so I've been playing with it now for quite a few weeks. 5-6 weeks. And I want to play for you a little sample of an intro song called Galaxy, but I want to take you through its kind of evolution. And if you want to know where I learned how to use DigiTakt, I've got a pile of videos and links so you can check those out. I have a playlist for that, and there are others beyond that, but basically Cuckoo, Bo Beats, and a number of other amazing folks I listen to, so feel free to check that out. As I was playing with this, I found a beat that I liked. I broke that beat down. I transferred it over with the Electron transfer tool, and then I resampled it and kind of chopped it up into a few blocks. And that was kind of my starting point for this song. I also had two other pieces. One is kind of a key part. The other are some vocals. So I'm just going to play those three parts for you here, a little bits of it anyway. So on track one is where I have kind of the key part. And so you can see I found some part I liked. I reversed it, thought it was kind of nice. Here's a sample of the voices.
Galaxy M12.
And then here's the first part of the drum sequence. But that drum sequence again was chopped up, and you can see there's quite a few pieces in there. And this is a chopped up drum section from Loop Masters. What I did initially is that you can see I've laid it out, and it's 64 long, and for each thing I've gone in and as I chopped it up, kind of copy and paste it in some random areas because I thought it sounded good, so just kind of sampling some of those. So you can see that I've used a bunch of parameter locks, and these parameter locks work awesome. I've got the kick drums and everything in, but they're all in one place, and so I'm going to play it for you, and I'll talk about what's good and not good about what I did there. So let's just check the global mutes. I think this should do it. So let's see what happens. Now I have the fill set up to play a little bit more drums and also trigger the vocal.
Galaxy M12.
So that's kind of how that piece fits together. What I had immediately learned over time is that I wanted to start to be able to bring the kick drum in and out, maybe run a filter on the kick drum, add some resonance, and that became a bit more of a challenge because they were all now, of course, on track 2, and so doing that was a bit of a challenge for me. So what I'm going to do is load up another version of this project because, well, I have several of them. Well, let's just jump to... Yeah, let's just jump to here. Yes, I want to load it. Now let's take kind of a little closer look and see what I have going on here. So track 1 now contains mostly my kick drums. So you can see I've got a pattern laid out for the different kicks. And there's slightly different versions of the kick, but primarily I wanted to move the kicks to track 1 so now I could manage them independently. It allows me to kind of play what you can see here with the filter, envelopes, allows me to set the rest of these settings here so that it can be more dynamic as it plays. Track 2. Now on track 2, there's kind of these different percussive sounds here as well, and you'll see they're pretty much the same throughout all of these little spots. But it also allows me again to kind of, again, change the filter envelope, change some of the effects and the panning individually in a very easy way. And I've also assigned an LFO, so it kind of makes a little more motion happen. Let's go to track 3, and you'll see here, let's listen to what that sounds like. Oops. Okay. So let's talk about 4. So you can see on track 4, I have a bunch of the symbols kind of laid out. And not a widely varying pattern, but just enough. If you look at the trig conditions, yeah, they're pretty much just set to play. Let's just take a listen to see what these sound like now that they're separated out. So you can see immediately I have a bit more separation. What's nice now is that kick drums here, snare is here, and these other cymbal sounds over here. So I can now go to these tracks and I can start doing some fun things, say with the filter envelopes. So now as you're playing along, you can play with these a bit more. And now I can play with that independent of my kick drum, so bring that down just a bit more. Make it a little softer now with the filter. Now if I go back over here to the kick drum track, I can do the same thing again. Just bring the resonance up as an example. As you play with the filters, now you can do this live to kind of help make it be a bit more dynamic. Now you'll notice that I'm on the kind of the local mutes, not the global mutes. You can tell by the color change. I've added some other parts in now that I can play with, and so let's bring a couple of those online. Let's focus on kind of track 6 for a moment. And so this was a fun little part. And this was just a little piece that I pulled out of this larger file you can see. So it's like, yeah, I'll just focus on that little part. And I came in and I played a little bit with the envelope. And I set up a little bit of reverb. It's centered here, but it doesn't sound centered because I came over here to the LFO setting, and now what I have is a slight bit on the LFO, which then goes over to the pan. So it took me a while to kind of dial in the sound, but when I was dialing in the sound here, I spent quite a bit of time kind of playing with the speed and the multiplier and kind of how does that all feel together. And so I kind of like how that adds a little bit to it. Let me bring back in just the kick drum. Go over and play with the filter a bit, bring that resonance down just a hair. Kind of hit that bass area. Maybe overdrive might be a little aggressive, but I kind of like it from a sound perspective. But now again, this allows me to spend some time just kind of fine tuning what it sounds like. Again, it allows much more playability. So you can imagine live, I might start here, come down through. You can bring parts in and out much more dynamically now. Let's turn on 8, because I believe I've moved the voices now over to 8. Well, we're about to find out. How about that? Then 5 contains my little key part. It's a little different from the first one. On this version, apparently I'm missing the vocal piece. But again, the goal here was really to show that track 1 is now my kick drum. Track 2 is kind of more of my snare. 4 has a nice little beat to it. 6 has this little part that I made where I use the LFO to kind of adjust the panning so you get that more kind of dynamic, fun little part in there. And let's just listen again to those. So now as you're playing, say for our friends, playing a little club, hanging out, again, this helps you bring parts in and out much more cleanly. Or at least it feels that way to me, that's for sure. All right, let's load one of my more recent ones, and I will go through a few more pieces that I've done. Again, this isn't designed to be comprehensive. It's really designed to just talk through some of the things that I've learned as I've done this. Okay. Now let's look at the breakdown we have here. Track 1. I don't know why the visual isn't there. Let's try that again. There we go. That's a new one to me. My snare, some cymbals, a fun little part to add in, sound from before. This is a fun little part I made off my Pulse 2. This little bass piece to add in. And of course my voices.
Galaxy M12.
So what else did I do in here? So I spent a bit more time working with the resonance. Kind of setting the overdrive, which I like. So we've got a bit more of a punchy kick. But again, we can kind of punch that up a bit more. So that's a nice thing about really having those parts separate. Let's go to here, take a listen. Actually like the overdrive quite a bit. I was surprised how much I would use it. I use it quite a bit. again, here we can kind of play with the let's just play this part. Let's see where we're at. So you can see I'm going to play the first three. This is the vocal track. These aren't needed now because I don't have the MIDI pieces hooked up, which is fine. Let's just play the start of this. Kind of that bass kind of come in. I'm still working on that part. Line that I put together. Now let's listen to what happens when I hold down the fill button.
Galaxy M12.
So let's contrast that really quick with the very first one so you can hear that. So I'm going to go back into project, load project. I'll just play that first part. Track one. So you can still hear the drums. Still hear the kind of background piece a bit. Hold on the fill, you should hear a few more drums because I kind of have some turned off if the fill isn't on there. And so all good. It was kind of hard again to pull all those parts, drums apart or bass drums apart and do some very specific dynamics with that. So let me load the interim set for you. Go ahead and just play the drum parts of that. So you can immediately tell a very different hit on the bass drum. Cymbals sound different. Snare sounds a little different. Now let me add in a couple of other pieces. I'm going to go ahead and just play through. You can hear more hits because I can have some things parameter locked to be on fill.
Galaxy M12.
Got some other parts I can bring in. A little bit of the bass line.
Galaxy M12.
So now what I've been much more effective at doing is saying, okay, look, track one. Oops. Track one is going to be more of my bass drum. I can now kind of tune you individually. Much more of a snare hit I can again tune individually. Kind of a hi-hat. Cowbell, I guess everyone needs more cowbell. Just thought it was a fun little tone to add in. And then again, the kind of pad in the background. And this again was just a fun little ARP I made and just thought kind of add a little more depth to the song. So I can bring that in and out as I want. Put a little bass in your face because it's fun.
Galaxy M12.
So I hope this kind of helps you just kind of understand a progression from, hey, I put some things in, I overdid parameter locks because it looked fun to try, and then separating it out and finding kind of lanes for everything individually that I would want to play with dynamically, whether it's bringing drums or snares or cymbals or the different parts in and out dynamically. It allows me to use the mutes to turn things on and off, and then also gives me a little bit of chance to play with things and during the live performance to allow me to really kind of play with whether it's the filters or the cutoffs or whatever it may be in a way that can make it much more dynamic during a live performance. So anyway, it's kind of an interesting walkthrough. Let me know if you find it useful. If you've got any more questions, please feel free to ask. And I hope you found it useful. Thanks.